This is Stephen Welsh, President of the International Chiropractors Association, with the Daily Update for Tuesday, June 16th. Well, as promised, today we will continue our journey in search of the truth. Let's turn back the clock 500 years and begin to review how the true scientists were treated by the experts of their time. Now, as I read the history of the early years of the scientific revolution, the controversies of those days are usually framed as a tension between the concepts of religion versus science. Now, some of that thinking still remains in our collective consciousness 500 years later, but for this journey in search of the truth, I'm going to reframe the discussion and look at those times through a different lens. Let's look at belief systems and paradigms. What were the generally accepted paradigm of the day? What was the existing belief system? How did those with a vested interest in maintaining the belief system react to ideas that threatened the status quo? And how were those who questioned it treated by the establishment based upon what the experts of their day had to say? And finally, are there any parallels to what we are experiencing today? Any lessons to be learned? So we begin our journey about 500 years ago, and that is when the scientific revolution began. And it all started with Copernicus and the Copernicus revolution. You see, the Copernicus revolution was the paradigm shift away from the model that described the cosmos as having Earth at the center of the universe to the heliocentric model with the sun at the center of the solar system. You see, 500 years ago, everybody just knew that the Earth was the center of the universe. It was almost considered self-evident. See, that's what everybody was taught. And that's what everybody believed. Well, Nicholas Copernicus came along and he wrote his first description of his heliocentric hypothesis around 1514. But he kept it close to the vest because he wanted to continue to collect the data to support his crazy ideas. Now, he completed his work in 1532, but it remained unpublished until his death 11 years later. The reason? Well, he didn't want to risk the scorn to which he would expose himself on account of the novelty and incomprehensibility of his thesis. You see, he knew that he was proposing a concept that had tremendous implications that would ultimately affect the authority of the establishment of his time. Now, 1 year after the publication, the first expert called upon to review the book was a Giovanni Tolasani. And after reviewing the work, this is what he said. He said, Copernicism was absurd because it was scientifically unproven and unfounded. Sound familiar? A little like the 6 most dangerous words in evidence-based medicine we discussed a couple of weeks ago. He also said, it is stupid to contradict an opinion accepted by everyone over a very long period of time for the strongest reasons. In other words, the arguments used against considering a new paradigm is based upon the opinions of the many, not upon the new facts being presented. Once again, sound a little familiar? You know, if you don't have an RCT, the expert opinion prevails. How about the recent attempts to reject the foundational tenets of chiropractic? You know, the self-proclaimed experts that reject the hypothesis that the chiropractic adjustment affects the nervous system, maybe the immune system, and that by removing the interference, one can assist in the improving of one's health? Yeah, it's now 500 years later than then, but back then, just as now, there existed an establishment, and there existed people with a vested interest in maintaining the status quo. And there existed an emergence of a new paradigm that was a threat to the establishment of that era. Well, once the hypothesis was rejected 500 years ago, that concept collected dust for quite some time with only a few advocates continuing to teach the new idea to those who were willing to listen. Now, historians suggest that 60 years later in all of Europe, there were only 15 astronomers that were teaching the new theory, only 2 in Italy. Well, tomorrow we will review how those 2 in Italy were treated by the system for having dared to change their personal belief system and then share it with others. You see, those 2 astronomers were in fact speaking the truth, and they paid a price for it. Tomorrow, we will move the clock ahead to the 1600s and review the work of Galileo, who is now considered the father of modern science. Well, that's my update for today. Tomorrow, we will continue our journey in search of the truth. We will turn back the clock 500 years and to begin to review how the true scientists were treated by the experts of their time. Meanwhile, please reach out and connect with the ICA. We're here for you to help you help your patients, because in these times, they really do need the reassurance that there is no need for mass panic. And don't forget, you are truly their beacon of hope, and we will get through these challenging times, and we will do it by working together. Thank you.